From the War Room, it's Quinn in the Morning. The original War Room since 1994. Wow, so many years. Anyway, joining us this morning is Greg Wrightstone, who's written a bunch of books about climate change and knows a bunch of stuff about climate change, which is more than I can say for John Kerry, who doesn't know anything about climate change. He just sees dollar signs in front of his eyes. And the only thing he's ever done right is marry the ketchup queen. Greg, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Oh, good to be back on with you, Jim. I might have been listening to you in 1994 back when I was in Pittsburgh. Yeah, and you were always the most entertaining talk show host, always providing information I hadn't heard before. So kudos to you.
Well, thank you so much. Very kind of you. Let's see. That would have been back in how old would you have been back then?
I'm not going to. Come on. You don't ask a girl her age. Come on.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Never mind. Sorry about that. Okay. So John Kerry flies his jet over to Davos to basically gaslight everybody about what's going to go on with the climate. And I'm sure that you watched all this. What were your impressions of this year's CAP, whatever it was? Was that in South America? There was that and Davos. And I don't get the feeling that a lot of these countries are really, I mean, they give it lip service, but I don't think they're going to give up their fossil fuels.
Yeah, they're not. John Kerry, it was pointed out to him he's riding his own private jet and it was COP28 over, I believe it was in the Emirates. And they've got, if you've never been there, it's quite amazing. They have they're in the middle of the desert. They have an indoor ski resort.
Right.
There, but he flew there and he said, "Oh no, I own no private jets." And it was pointed out to him, "Well, okay, you technically don't, but Teresa, the ketchup queen, they were her jets, and you're married to her." And he went, but he said that it was okay because what he's doing is so important. He needs to use jets to travel, but so it's jets for me, but not for thee.
Mm-hmm.
They want to reduce our travel on planes. Now the EU, there's consideration that vacations need to be constrained. No more flying for you, and they want to limit your miles that you can fly in a given year. No, thank you. And this is all, Jim, isn't it? A matter of controlling every aspect of our lives, from what car you drive, how much water comes out of your shower head, your the dishwashers, our new dishwasher, we often have to run it twice because they've limited the flow out so much. And you'll appreciate this too. We just put a new shower head in my apartment in Arlington, Virginia, just dribbled out. My son-in-law visited. He took it apart. He found 3 flow restrictors in the shower head, and he knocked them out. And man, it's like Niagara Falls now. I love it.
Good. You know, it's amazing. I was taking a leak at one of the local local malls. Okay, when I was in Pennsylvania. Okay, so I'm standing there in front of the urinal, and I look at the sign, and it says, "This chemical urinal saves 300,000 gallons of water a year." And all I could think of was, in southwestern Pennsylvania, 300,000 gallons saved would be like an extra nose ring at a Coldplay concert. I mean,
exactly.
Honest to God, the problem they got too much water most of the year.
Right, and they're trying to impose one-size-fits-all regulations across the board. But Jim, we've had some huge rulings. West Virginia versus EPA last year. Just Tuesday, another ruling in the Fifth Circuit Court of Louisiana reining in EPA's climate justice regulation, and it's called Chevron deference. We don't go into the details here, but they're ruling against this. They're reining in EPA, DOE, it's DOE, Department of Energy, under Jennifer Granholm, that's doing a lot of these regulations, and it's all for your own good. Right now, they're considering banning gasoline-fired lawnmowers. They're considering banning and restricting what kind. They're even going to ceiling fans was another. They're just not, and they're doing it for your own good, Jim. You have to understand that.
Oh, yeah,
because
sure.
you can save money. Well, I don't care. I should have the opportunity. It should be my right as a citizen to buy the appliance I want. And if it uses a little bit too much energy, so be it. I'm good with that. And it's really governmental overreach. And when Trump got in, he repealed some of this. But as soon as Joe Biden got in, he took that. He unrepealed a lot of the regulations.
Well, the power company every month sends me a nasty gram telling me, here's how much you used and here's how much your neighbors used. Well, I got a studio in here with 7 computers going all the time, plus TVs. And, sorry, just leave me alone. I know it's a lot of money. My bill used to be $200 a month. Now it's $374, thanks to Joe Biden and thanks to inflation. But anyway, yeah. So, I mean, you constantly get that kind of shaming from the left.
And why are they doing it, Jim? It's all this false fear of carbon dioxide. Our emissions of CO2, carbon dioxide, are driving temperatures that are now unusual and unprecedented. And those are the words of Dr. Michael Mann that he likes to use so much.
Oh, the inventor of the hockey stick and the guy that hid the tree ring.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Honest.
He's on trial right now. I've been watching it. He's suing Mark Stein, one of your favorite acerbic commentators, and Stein is ripping him a new one.
Good.
Every day. He was under cross-examination yesterday. What's really, really interesting, I haven't heard it many places, the judge barred Michael Mann's, a lot of his technical experts, his climate experts were barred because the judge said, get this, their publications did not follow the scientific method. And so finally, he and his buddies are getting called out and called on the carpet for their fake science. And he's the leader of this cabal of disinformation disciples that are peddling junk science. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, Dr. Fauci's next on that one. And that's another issue altogether. I mean, the idea that carbon dioxide is a major greenhouse gas. I mean, what people don't realize is how little there is. I mean, argon is considered to be a rare gas. There's more argon in the atmosphere than there is carbon dioxide. I'm surprised that plant life actually survives on what little there is.
Yeah, you're right, Jim. And I'm executive director of the CO2 Coalition, and we promote the many benefits of carbon dioxide. And that's really why I wrote my new book. It was just published last week, by the way. The title's A Very Convenient Warming, How Modest Warming and More CO2 Are Benefiting Humanity. We've gone beyond that there is no climate crisis, and there isn't. But now we've taken a step further, and we know that the science, the facts, and the data, they fully support this idea of a prospering and thriving ecosystems. By almost every metric we look at, our ecosystems are improving and expanding, and the human conditions improving because of it. We look in the book, I capture and document that deserts are shrinking, that forest fires globally are in decline in the United States, in Canada, and globally. It's just not. These claims of the climate-related disasters just ain't so. They're claiming sea level rise will claim these various Pacific and Indian Ocean island nations. And let's take a look at the Maldives, which the UN lists as the most at-risk island chain in the world. The highest point is 14 feet above sea level. 15,000 years ago, Jim, that island chain was also just above sea level. And in the last 15,000 years, sea level has risen 400 feet. Why aren't those islands under 400 feet of water? It's because of a geologic process known as accretion. The islands actually grow as sea level rises. So we've had 400 feet of sea level rise, and here they are above sea level, not by a lot, but this geologic process, it washes during storm events, gravels and sands up onto the island. And the island grows slowly, but geology is a slow process. And if we look at the current sea level rise, it will rise 2 inches by the year 2050 when they're supposed to be underwater. 2 inches, barely to your ankles. So what they're telling you is the last 400 feet of sea level rise didn't put those islands underwater, but boy, that next 2 inches, look out. You know, they're going to be underwater.
Yeah.
It just, when you hear stuff like this, you shake your head. No one listening today knows that. I would reckon. You've probably not heard that. But it's important information like that we need to get out.
Well, you know, we are still coming out of the last ice age. And so there's still ice melting. And so the level of the sea is going to go up. I mean, we just found evidence of civilizations underwater from thousands of years ago that apparently during the ice age, when a lot of the water was frozen at the poles, there was exposed land and people lived on it. I mean, of course, when the planet warms, there's going to be more water in the ocean, but it doesn't mean the end of the world. I mean, look at Antarctica. They keep telling us that Antarctica's ice is melting, but it's only melting in one place where there's an underwater volcano. Well, hello.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the West Antarctic Rift Zone.
Right.
And it goes up into the Antarctic Peninsula. They call it Earth's natural blowtorch. It's the most active chain of active volcanoes in the world, but they're all under ice. And so there is some melting in that one little area that represents less than 5% of the continent. And it's melting from below, not above. If it was climate change melting the ice, it would be melting top down, not bottom up. Things like that we need to expose. The other thing we look at, Jim, is looking back through human history. There's a strong linkage between the rise and fall of empires and civilizations of humanity and the rise and fall of temperatures.
Yeah, exactly.
In the past, there were 3 other previous warming periods, and we're in one now. 3 others that were all warmer than today, and all were hugely beneficial. We saw that great empires and civilizations rose up during those previous warm periods, and they being climatologists and historians, called those warmer periods climate optima, because it was really good for humanity and the ecosystems. And if we look, the one when the first great empires rose up, it was the Bronze Age or the Minoan warm period. The Babylonians, the Assyrians, the Hittites, the Harappan Empire in the Indus River Valley, all these great empires rose up. And then it started getting cold quickly. And within 50 or 100 years, it got really cold, crops failed, famine set in, there was mass depopulation. It was called and if you don't believe me, just Google late Bronze Age collapse, and you can learn all about it. And it was related to worldwide temperature declines. And we see that repeated time and time again with benefits in the Roman warm period, in the medieval warm period. And we're benefiting from it today, and benefiting greatly from the combination of warming and more CO2.
Well, and you're exactly right about this. Depopulation, of course, happens whenever you decrease the food supply, which is apparently why we're banning farmers in the Netherlands, trying to decrease again the population. Thank you, World Economic Forum. But you're right. The medieval warming period, Eric the Red and his band of, merry Vikings were growing grapes on Greenland. Greenland was called green because it was green at the time. Yeah, and the Roman Empire flourished during a warming period.
Yeah, exactly. The Romans were growing citrus in the north of England near Hadrian's Wall. They can't do that today.
No.
It was warmer then by far. We had olive groves in northern Germany where you can't grow olives there today. So we can document all this. And the last great warming period was a medieval warm period that coincided with the high Middle Ages. And then when it started getting cold, once again, we had crop failure, famine, pestilence, and mass depopulation. And when that occurred, that's when the huge witch hunts in Europe took place. Tens of thousands of mostly elderly widowed women were burned at the stake or drowned, being accused of weather-causing witches. And in my book, I've got a chart. You'll love this. Is that I captured a chart that shows witches killed per decade, and I compared that to winter temperatures. And when it was really cold, they killed more witches because there was just crops failed.
Yeah,
they blamed it on somebody,
and there was nothing else to do. I mean, if you didn't have TV or video games, you'd go out and kill some witches.
There you go.
Well, and you know, you can see the climate variation at the end of the medieval warming period, due mostly, I believe, to activity on the sun. Because back in the 1990s, the sun was really active. I tracked this, and I remember we had some days with 105 degrees when I was in New Jersey. So, I mean, the sun was very active. But after the medieval warming period, when that started to collapse, we headed into the 1500s, the era of Shakespeare. And if you look at the art from that time, it's all about snow, and it's all about sleighs, and it's all about people. And the Dutch invented the ice skate because the canals had never frozen before.
Yeah, and it's the dirty little secret is history tells us that we should welcome the warmth and fear the cold. People like Michael Mann and the other alarmists like John Kerry, they don't look at history. They don't understand this. So they call me a science denier, although I am a scientist. I would call them history deniers because they're denying what actually happened during the other previous warmings and coolings. It's going to get cold again, Jim. We might be in that next cooling trend right now for all we know. It's hard to predict the future. But when it does get cold, it probably won't be as bad as the previous eras because we have refrigeration. We're not moving food around by ox cart. It's not a hand-to-mouth existence anymore, but you can't stop crop failure when these things occur. Going into the Little Ice Age, it started raining and it wouldn't stop. It coincided with this cooling temperature, and so they couldn't get their crops planted. And those that did get planted rotted in the field,
right,
or didn't ripen. And it's all climate related back then. And again, 1/3 of the population of the Earth perished at that time as we went into the most recent cooling period.
And there were
it won't be as bad as the other periods, the next ones,
yeah, but
it's still going to be horrific.
There were no Jeep Cherokees then. There were Cherokees, but they weren't Jeeps, and so we didn't have to worry about that. So I mean, look, the whole idea. Look, they know this is fake. Okay, they know what they're up to. This is about massive redistribution of wealth. If you can demonize something that happens with everything that a human does, if you can demonize it and then introduce digital currency where you can keep track of everybody's carbon expense, then you can control everybody. And you can take, like, for instance, let's say that ExxonMobil runs out of carbon credits at the end of the fiscal year, at the end of October. Well, they're not going to shut down. They need carbon credits. Where are they going to go to get them? They'll go to Zimbabwe, where they've got a lot of carbon credits because they don't do anything to generate carbon. They've been given a lot of carbon credits because they're a quote-unquote developing nation, when really they're a dying nation because of communism and collectivism. But what will happen is, the ExxonMobil has to buy carbon credits from Zimbabwe for billions of dollars just to keep going for the rest of the year. So think about that. Billions of dollars have been transferred from America to a failing country.
Yeah, and you've got all these island nations that are claiming they want climate reparation, just like the Maldives we talked about.
Right.
And all these prime ministers and presidents are standing there with their hand out, looking for the United States and the Western economies to throw money at them to solve a non-existent climate crisis. Hey, let's think about this too. We just talked about the Maldives. If you Google Maldives and Forbes, you'll read a story about the building boom in the Maldives. Again, the most at-risk island that'll be underwater in a few decades. All right?
Yeah.
There are 15 resort complexes that are either recently built or built, and 3 new airports under construction. These were all funded by equity companies and insured by multinational insurance companies. Those insurance companies avoid risk like the plague. And do you think they would insure many, many millions of dollars if they're going to be underwater in a few years? Heck no. There's no way. Just look at that. Those insurance companies know it's all a farce. They know it's not going to happen.
Well, and also you got Barack Obama spending how many millions of dollars, whether it's his millions, we don't know, for a house right on the water. And I think,
exactly.
And the same with Al Gore. Didn't he buy something out in Malibu or somewhere?
Oh, he's got several, and Al Gore's got one in his main mansion is Tennessee.
Right. Yeah, that one has a bigger carbon footprint than Rhode Island.
Exactly. But that's okay. It's extravagance for me, but not for thee. And I've got an employee, Vijay Jayaraj, lived in southern India, and he writes a lot about this, about living in the developing world where they need more electricity, they need energy. But John Kerry and his ilk want to destine these people to generational poverty. They don't want to lift them up out of their meager existence. He talks about his electricity going out several times a week in his apartment building, and he lives on the 8th floor, and his wife was pregnant, 9 months pregnant, with the electric out, and of course the elevator doesn't work. We don't think about things like that, or the elderly woman that lived across the hall from him that had to walk up 8 flights of stairs with no air conditioning. No, you can't even run the fan because there's no electric, and it's 98, 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Well, we're going to start thinking about it. I mean, if this new Green Deal crap, if they get their way, it's going to be like California. They're going to either be giving us brownouts and rotating blackouts, or they're going to have to start, like California, buying electricity from other states where they generate it with coal.
Exactly. But here at the CO2 Coalition, Jim, I'm so proud to lead this group. We're the only truly scientific organization in the world that's fighting back against climate change. We have some of the top scientists. We just added John Clauser to our board of directors.
Great.
And so he's the current physics Nobel laureate. You may have heard of him.
I've only got 30 seconds, so wrap it up.
Okay. Well, my new book is out, Jim. Mm-hmm. You can go buy it at convenientwarming.com, or just Google convenient warming to buy it at Amazon. It's just published, hot off the press. If you liked Inconvenient Facts, my first book, you're going to love A Very Convenient Warming.
Well, thank you for joining us on the air today. Let's do it again. It's always enlightening. Gregory Wrightstone, expert on the climate, as opposed to, say, John Kerry, the baritone buffoon. We'll be right back with more after this. Don't go away.